Welcome back to the channel, you guys. Hope you're having a great day. Today, in this lesson, we are going to be talking about creating crazy, beautiful chords. We're going to talk about using extended voicings. We're going to talk about using the major minor shift. And of course, we're going to put them all together into a chord progression that sounds something like this. So today I'm going to be playing on this Journey OF66 carbon fiber guitar, one of my favorite acoustic instruments because it's super lightweight, it's small, it sounds great, and of course it's carbon fiber, so it's nearly impossible to damage. All right, so let's take a look at the chords I used for that intro progression. If you guys want the tab for this, it's available on my Patreon page. If you want the chords and more like it, you can grab that from my Color Chords Essential Worksheet by following the link above. All right, you guys, so let's start with chord number one. What we're going to do is take an E major chord and extend it by adding a few extra notes off the scale. Now, normally for an E chord, you have the root note of the scale, the third scale degree, and the fifth. You cram those notes together off the scale, and it creates a triad or an E major. Most of us are familiar with that shape. But to create something crazy beautiful in this case, we're going to take some extra notes of the scale and add it to the chord. So in this case, we're going to use the major 7 and the 9th scale degree. Now, a scale only has 8 notes, so the 9th is the same as the 2nd scale degree, but in this case, because we have an extended voicing, we're going to call it a 9th. Now, the notes that we're going to play here on the 9th and the 7th are a D sharp, which is the major 7, and an F sharp, which is the 9th, okay? And we're going to add that to our root 3rd, 5th E major. Here we go. Then the major 7 is going to be 2nd string 4th. So grab that with your pinky finger, and then we're going to play 4th and 4th, and this is the 9th. So these are two color notes that really shouldn't, belong on an E major, but it's going to add a ton of color. Then what we're going to do is add the G sharp note, and you have to stretch way back to 3rd string 1st fret. And when you play that together, it sounds like this. Okay, and when you let all those notes bleed together, it just creates something really beautiful. All right, so let's jump to chord number 2. This is a C diminished 7 chord, and we're going to add the sharp 9 and talk about that in a second because this is one of those major minor chords, which is really interesting. So to build this chord, we need a C note on the 5th, and use your middle finger here because we're going to be using all the fingers. The diminished flat 5 here is with your ring finger, double flat 7 with your index finger on 3rd string, that's 2nd fret, and then your pinky goes to 2nd string 4th fret, which is the minor 3rd. Sounds like this. Okay, just that movable diminished shape, but we're not done because what we have here is the minor 3rd, but we're going to add the sharp 9, which is actually a major 3rd. So this chord is going to have a major note and a minor note, which can be really confusing to the ear. And it sounds like this. So it's both major and minor. Now normally, we associate a minor chord, in this case a C minor, with something maybe introspective and melancholy or sad or whatever. Right? And then we do a C major and we might associate it with being happy or extroverted or bright. Now when you add both of those elements into one chord, it creates, something very interesting. Okay, now in this case, we're sort of adding it as a passing tone, from the E, so it doesn't sound quite as harsh as playing it in isolation, but that's chord number 2. Now for the second part of this chord, I'm going to take my index finger and just flatten it out so it plays the F sharp note on 1st string, which is 2nd fret. So that's all we're going to do. So we're going to go from the C diminished 7 and then flatten it out and play another flat 5. So here's what that sounds like. Now chord number 3 is going to be a C sharp minor 9, and unfortunately we've got another big stretch, and we're going to do the major minor shift, but unlike the previous chord where we kind of mashed them all together and we weren't sure how to feel about that chord, this one's going to go from the minor to the major, and we'll hear that shift. So what we're going to do is play C sharp with your ring finger, and then index finger unfortunately has to shift all the way back to 1st fret, which is the G sharp on 3rd string, and then the 9th with your pinky is going to be on 4th fret, 2nd string. Okay, so this is the voicing that we have. It's a pretty big stretch, and then what we're going to do is shift from the minor, and then what we're going to do, which is the open E, and then just take that finger, flatten it out. Okay, and that's that minor to major shift that creates a ton of really cool color to the chords. So here's what we played in the intro. So you can really hear how it kind of flips that chord on its head. Now obviously we just came from our C sharp minor 9 to the C sharp add 9, which is a minor to major shift. For the next one, we're going to do a shift, but in the opposite direction. We're going to do major to minor. And this is much more common in music, especially on the 4th scale degree, which is what we're doing in this progression. So we have an A major. Okay, so you guys could hear how strongly it wanted to pull back to the root, which is the E in this case. We're in the key of E, so we have the A major to A minor and really pulls us back to that E in a strong way. So that's why we used it, and that major minor shift on the 4th scale degree, add it to your repertoire. No matter what key you're playing in, find out what the 4th scale degree is, try playing around, start with the major, which is in the key, go to the minor, which is outside of the key, and then roll back to the root. Okay, so in this case, we're not doing just a straight bar chord. We're leaving the 1st and 2nd strings open. Again, that adds some color, so we have a B note and an E note in relation to our A. So this is going to be a 9. Okay, so extending that A voicing, instead of the root 3rd and 5th, we have root 3, 5, and 9. That's the add 9 formula. Okay, so that's just adding that B note to the A like I explained, and then we're just going to a straight A minor. We're not extending the voicing, it's just going to be a pure minor chord. Just like that, and that's all that's happening in that measure. Now the final chord in this progression is back to the E major 9. Now you might be thinking, we already did the E major 9 and it looks like this. And of course you'd be right, but that's not the E major 9 we're using. We're going to shift that up the neck, and I'll show you why. Well, you guys probably heard why. It just gives you a really nice, beautiful high voicing. Sounds like this. So really awesome voicing. I'll show you guys how to play that. Again, it's movable, so if you need it on a C or if you need it on a D, you just move it around. But in this case, we have an E note. So this is our root, and then we have a 5 and a root. So just a power chord shape. I think most of us are used to playing power chords, but we got to shift them to our inside fingers because we need that pinky to go up to the D sharp, which is the major 7. Okay, and the 9th is going to be happening on the 2nd string. So we have our root, 5, root, 9, and then 7th, major 7th. Okay, and it sounds like this. And then for the very final flourish, I just press down here on the G sharp, which is just the major 3rd. And I'm just pressing down with my finger and then using my thumb in behind to pluck it. So a little fancy, but anyway, that's how we wrapped it up. And the construction of this chord is similar to, the other major 9, just higher up the neck. So that's a really quick look at the chords that I used in this particular progression. And the reason why I put all these chords together is because these extended voicings and the minor to major shift followed by the major to minor shift really grabs the listener's ear, and they're like, what did you do just there, right? And when we break it down, we can see nothing too crazy other than, some of the fingerings of those extended chords can be tricky. But yeah, I would recommend looking at the major 7s, the major 9s, the minor 9s, and then of course using some of these shiftings between major and minor really create some really interesting and beautiful chords. Now when you strip away all the ornamentation from these chords, basically what you end up with is an E major to a C sharp minor to an A back to an E. So in its most simplistic form, we're basically doing like a 1, minor 6, 4, 1 progression. So it doesn't get much simpler than that, but to take something really simple and make it into something, crazy beautiful takes a little bit of thought and some experimentation. So I had used this chord progression in one of my acoustic guitar demos, and I had a lot of comments saying, dude, you gotta teach that. What are you playing there? So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I wanted to add some theory into it so that you could hopefully understand a little bit what was going on, like the rationale why I used those chords and why they sound the way they do. Hopefully it wasn't too dry for you guys. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the lesson. Have a great week. Take care.